Welcome to Geeks Corner. I'm Mr. Daps.
I'm Katie.
All right, here's how you beat a kangaroo in a fist fight. Step 1, you're going to get behind the kangaroo. Kangaroos cannot hop backwards. Number 2, you're going to lift the kangaroo's tail. Kangaroos are tripod-based animals, very seriously, and actually use their tail for the majority of their lift. Kangaroos cannot hop when you lift their tails. They are immobilized.
But where does the fist fighting come into
Where's
play?
number?
Then you start punching.
Hasha!
Okay, good.
I was gonna say, I'm running out of hands. Who are you?
What?
Kangaroo?
Kangaroo Jack.
Oh, this is Kangaroo Jack.
No, I'm Cameron. That was a little goof I just did now. My name actually isn't Kangaroo Jack at all. In fact, I play Cameron on the popular show Geeks Corner. Use the hashtag Geeks Corner to communicate with the various spirits which live inside of me, one of which was Kangaroo Jack a moment ago.
So this was a reference to the teaser that was released today for the new Ghostbusters video game?
No, but yes.
I feel like it could have been.
All right.
If we stretched it just a little bit. That's way more exciting. No, it's not. It's more positive than what we're going to talk about. Here on Geeks Corner, we like to talk about positive things, but that doesn't always happen in the news. And today, what?
That's true.
It is true. But we can talk about not so positive things in a critical and positive fashion, right, Cameron? And
critically
Katie?
Positive.
Critically positive. Sort of. Today at lunchtime, our producer Tyler and I began frantically texting each other as news that talks had broken down between Disney and Sony about the future of Spider-Man. And things just got worse from there. Is that correct, Tyler?
That's so much worse.
Okay, you can go cry in the corner.
That our producer and Mr. Daps text only using emojis.
Oh, only.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was all memes. But,
Flip, sad face.
anyway.
PlayStation 4, sad face again.
Yeah.
Cameron, why don't you explain how the deal works from a big picture and then what is going wrong?
All right, well.
I didn't ask you to do this before this show, so I'm sorry.
Money is an abstract system which societies use in lieu of traded goods to disseminate the weight between carrying large sacks of grain or livestock between two locations. This currency is an assumed value and is only as valuable as the people who put faith in that money. That's why we don't no longer use the gold standard, for example, in this country.
Disney and Sony.
So is that too big picture?
Yeah, come a little closer.
Cool. Disney and Sony have had shared rights of the Spider-Man character and many of the Spider-Man canon for a while now, and their contract has come to a term, I believe it's a term limit release. Point is, there was an opportunity for the re-upping of the contract. Disney came in with a very aggressive grab of percentage.
Basically 50-50, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And Sony opted out. So at this point, that puts the future of Spider-Man and all of the associated characters' involvement in the MCU in question entirely as far as legality, including further inclusion of Tom Holland's Spider-Man in the current Disney franchise.
Things got even more confusing because we heard that at noon. Then at about 4 o'clock, IO9 put out a thing that Sony had said that negotiations were still going on, but it was really about what sort of a producer role that Kevin Feige would be having. And then literally right before the show came out, a half an hour ago?
Yes.
The Hollywood Reporter got a statement that was able to publish word for word from Sony saying that negotiations had broken down, Disney had walked away, and it's all Disney's fault. Yeah. So that is where things stand currently from what we know from Sony. Disney hasn't commented, Marvel hasn't commented, so there's actually a lot of unknown things too, because we're only hearing one side of the story, which is never a good way to make really good judgments, is it? But it does leave the future of Spider-Man in the MCU completely in limbo at the moment. And what do you think about this? The room goes silent. This is the first time this... Yes, Tyler is very angry. As is most of the Marvel and Disney community today, it seems.
Yeah.
May I play Venom Advocate?
Please do.
Of course.
Y'all got nothing to worry about. Honestly, one of two things is going to happen. Either Disney is going to agree to a smaller share percentage and come to a better agreement with Sony, which is more lucrative for Disney and more lucrative for Sony because they will also be making more money out of future profits.
And they're currently under 5% off of first-time sales, and then they get merchandise rights.
So they're going to get some different rights included, and Disney might actually get a cut percentage of the other ones, in which case things move forward, hunky-dory. We just have a slight blip, and Phase 5 is the next inclusion of a Spider-Man film. Or the other option is Spider-Man is taken completely away from Disney, and the creative minds over at the MCU have to come up with new and interesting ways of incorporating the materials into it in the future, which I think difficulties in the creative process always lead to better options if you have the right people behind it.
Also agreed.
So, no matter what, we're going to win as fans, honestly. It would be unfortunate for us to lose Tom Holland in the major motion picture aspect, but I think that is a slim to none chance of that happening for an extended period of time.
And honestly, if it did happen, this would be a case where we have a very easy way to show our displeasure, and I would fully intend on doing this of not going to said movie with Tom Holland, even though I really love, like, he's the best Spider-Man in my opinion, but I do think there is something to be said for encouraging companies to play nice with each other when they've started playing nice. It kind of reminds me of some of those, it almost feels like a reality TV show today.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of the back and forth, like, oh yeah, we're really buddies, but behind your back, I'm sneaking around. And
here's the real dirty truth of all this whole thing. There's a tertiary element to Spider-Man that nobody's discussing right now, which is how long ago was Spider-Man invented? 60-something years?
Yeah.
At this point? Public domain. The only reason they're fighting so hard to maintain the rights to this and keep percentages on the table is because Spider-Man has become a cultural icon, and many of the comic book characters, including Spider-Man, should theoretically be up for public domain licensing very soon. Now, Disney's very good at getting around this.
And don't they always get extensions somehow?
For the best, for the most part, because it means they have to fight for them. But in theory, this whole production of companies fighting over Spider-Man could be taking away from the fact of putting Spider-Man in the public domain, which ultimately would be a huge loss for everyone, because then everyone would have a swipe at Spider-Man, and we would be filled with a multiverse of terrible, 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 terrible Spider-Man films. Seriously, public domain is kind of death for a character. Let them keep it.
You know what's funny is you said that, you know what the first thing that popped into my mind, this is like Ghostbusters going again.
Oh my
you know
gosh.
the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man?
I've heard of him.
Yeah. My
Really?
first thought, when you're not supposed to think about these things, was that they would make a new Spider-Man movie and somebody would make it with Tobey Maguire, but he'd be like 50.
See, this is why you need to watch Into the Spider-Verse, because they basically did that.
We're gonna.
It's
gonna
so
do it.
good.
We're-
That makes me not want to watch
Gonna
it.
It's
to be
so
completely honest,
good.
but,
It's so
let's
good.
check the Twitter real quick.
Hi, Twitter.
Mikey says, in case this point isn't made during Geeks Corner, I think the Sony and Disney story is stemming from someone not fully fact-checking sources. I honestly believe there's no danger of Spider-Man leaving the MCU. Sony stated negotiations are not finished, which is true as of 4 hours ago, but not as of 1 hour ago.
And even if they are finished, they're not finished.
They're not finished. I
Yeah.
actually
Doesn't
think...
matter.
Tyler and I were talking about this earlier today. I think this is a huge negotiating tactic on
It is.
both parts.
Yeah. Allowing it to go public like this is a
I
choice.
think Disney leaked the first thing probably.
Yeah.
Sony reacted this afternoon, and it was probably somebody that wasn't completely high up on the totem pole in their comms department that wasn't aware that, hey, this is a negotiating tactic, and was just trying to save Sony's face. At which point, somebody that's actually in the room talked to said communications person and said, hey, don't do that. We need to look strong too. And this came out.
And strength is what you bring up. There are many rules in theatricality, which is this theatricality of how to maintain and hold power on stage. And one of the easiest ways to do it on a very small, if you're just to observe this as a stage, is to do the thing different than everyone else. And Disney is very, very good at doing the thing different, which is just not saying anything. One of the most powerful things that an actor can do is not say anything for an extended period of time. This is all theater, in my opinion.
It's a magic trick.
I have a question.
Fire away.
Because I'm
Flip away.
yeah, question. Katie, Dark Magic flip? Question mark. No.
If you put your thumb on it, it causes the web to spread. It's useful if you're trying to make a parachute, though Spider-Man is only be able to pull that off twice. It's a very difficult maneuver, especially while falling.
Thank you.
Thumb out.
No. What happens to the theme parks?
Different division.
It's a different universe
Got it.
for one.
Yes.
It's a different set of rights for two.
Yes.
The bigger thing that happens with the theme parks is the PR. If the worst thing that could happen is if Spider-Man were to go do the disco down New York Street again, New York City street again, and
Into the Spider-Verse.
no, I'm saying
Not
the worst
time
thing
to-
that could happen is if Sony were to make another movie, it's
Oh, I
very,
see.
very
Yeah.
poorly received.
It's going to be
And
if they do.
creates, I agree, and it creates a dislike of the character and hurts the brand.
Which is where it was before Disney acquired it.
Exactly. The biggest risk then would be people don't want to visit Spider-Man in the parks, go on Spider-Man attractions, and that wouldn't just hurt Disney. There's also a Spider-Man attraction over in Florida at Universal.
Yeah.
Like it would hurt multiple entities, and it would hurt really at the end of the day the movies that have gone before it that we've all grown to know and love, because you suddenly would look at, say, the end of Endgame or the end of Infinity War, and be like, I hate that guy. He
We
ruined
lost the
Spider-Man
kid
again. You know,
indeed.
like, because really the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, most of us liked.
Oh yeah, it was great. The Spider-Man 1 from the Tobey Maguire
But then
series,
they kept
some
going.
of the best ones, yeah.
And
It's like Jurassic Park.
yes, every time. But this
There was a
time
dance off in
around,
Jurassic Park.
we're what?
Kinda.
Is it 5 movies in with Tom Holland, and people genuinely love Spider-Man. His iteration of Spider-Man, Civil War, the two, 5.
Yep.
The 2 Avengers, and then the 2 Spider-Mans.
The two
But
Spider-Mans.
Spider-Man.
and so there's that
Underoos.
real risk that if you were to hurt the brand, then it could have repercussions in the parks.
Got it.
But Disney can still do whatever the heck they want. Merchandising rights, like they could really, let's say things really go south and you really want to see some theatrics, you could see Disney put like a Star Wars movie or a new, I don't know, what would we want to see? Fantastic Four,
Avengers
X-Men. Yeah, one of those movies up against whenever Spider-Man gets released.
And decimate them.
And it would destroy them.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I think there's a profit clause in there too, isn't there?
In the contract with
The
Sony?
movies for Spider-Man, is there?
It was
I'm
towards
not that I'm
Disney,
aware
I
of.
believe.
Oh, it was towards
Yeah.
Disney.
Yeah,
Okay,
Disney
then
had
never
to
mind.
make
Not the other
one,
way.
I think.
But to bring up a theme park point and to look at a real world comparison,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that would be a problem for Disney as far as cutting the profits by popularity of character. Just to counter that. Specifically, I'm looking at Batman as an example.
Yeah.
Batman has gone through a lot of very negative films recently. After the Chris Nolan universe, I don't think there was anything to compete with it.
No, not even close.
But Batman, the brand, is still thriving. It's
Very
still one
true.
of the highest superhero merchandise items in the world because there's still that separation and nostalgia factor of people who enjoy it. I think Spider-Man's going to retain that no matter
Well,
what.
and they're still, at the end of the day, Disney owns the comics.
Yeah.
And really, that's where the love of Spider-Man has always come from. Like, it birthed out of the comics and it went further. But, I mean, that's where he's really from, if you think about it.
Also, one time Spider-Man in the comics birthed himself after he became a giant spider.
The more you know.
That is true.
Let us know how you think this, I don't know, will play out. And if you think Spider-Man will stay in the MCU or not. Well, actually, is he in the MCU 2 years from now or not?
2 years from now, yeah. I say yes.
Yeah.
I think so too. All right, Bailey, you've got it.
Check us to see who wins.
Since we all said the same thing, we
We're
either
all winners.
yes,
Unless we're all losers.
exactly. That's very possible. All right, this last weekend, we had a blast wandering through Star Wars Galaxy's Edge as Rey and the
You were Rey?
Stormtroopers played cat and mouse. What?
As Ray. We're wandering as Ray.
Oh, no, I was trying to think of where I was going to go with this.
That's right.
Anyway,
That's right.
that happened on Sunday. My sister and brother-in-law went there and had a fantastic time in Galaxy's Edge on Saturday, and it really kind of spurred in me this reevaluation of how the reaction to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge has not been about Star Wars Galaxy's Edge necessarily, and how you look at these magical moments happening in the land, and it's hard not to recognize how special something like this is, because it's very you don't get to see cars racing and cars, like you don't see Lightning and Sally running down, doing what they did in the movie. And on
Taking out pedestrians.
well, yeah, that could be a problem.
Mew!
But on Sunday, stormtroopers were chasing Rey. Rey was using the Force on stormtroopers. Chewbacca was running around threatening to rip off arms. You didn't know what was going to go.
Lando wasn't
Like
there.
Chewbacca was literally running through Galaxy's Edge.
It was scary.
It was amazing.
Terrifying.
He's a very tall Wookiee.
I did not know he could move like that. Like that was pretty impressive.
So the space between the marketplace and Doc Ondar's and Savi's is
So fast.
very crowded.
And he
shimmied.
the only thing that was needed is he needed his crossbow.
You
Like if
don't
he'd have had the
know.
crossbow, it would have been straight out of the movie.
Bowcaster.
Bowcaster, thank you.
You're welcome. Crossbow is a medieval weapon. Bowcaster uses lasers.
Lasers.
Thank you.
Why does it need the side things? Why does it need the side things?
I've always wondered that.
Because he's Chewbacca.
It looks cool.
I'm sure there's an actual logical reason. I don't know it.
That's where the batteries are.
In the wings.
That's where the extra lasers are.
Reload! Light!
Anyway,
He
Article-
opens it, psh,
that we wrote about the magic of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge.
and lasers.
And
Swigga.
the reactions it's gotten over the last, 3 months now it's been open?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whatever, yeah.
May, June, July, August. So you could almost say 4. But the reaction it's gotten here on the West Coast, and then looking at the reactions on the East Coast. Do you guys see the lines today for the stores?
Yes.
They actually brought out signs that said, "This is the end of the line." That people had
dramatic.
It was pretty funny. But people are waiting in ridiculously long lines over there, and they're loving it in Disney's Hollywood Studios. So, very quickly, what is your brief take 3.5 months in on Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and the magic therein?
It's still enjoyable. I think that when we go, we don't necessarily do anything by normal park goer standard. But we still have a ton of fun. And I think that there's more to do, even though there is less in the land than was originally thought that there would be. But there's still a lot to do, and the land is still very much alive and breathing.
It was not built to be a quick flash in the pan. It was built to be something sustainable, enjoyable for a very, very long time. I think folks were only having a negative reaction because it was not an immediate fan service gratification, but it is built to be a fan experiential, event-based space.
Do you think part of that was because all the fans got reservations and went in May?
Possibly. I mean,
Like, you think of how it was busier during that first month than the last 2.5, and I really had to think. I'm like, I think all the really hardcore fans showed up then, and they spent a lot of money getting there then, and they're like, well, I'm just gonna wait till later to come back. The big eye opener to me, and I kind of just like, no, this thing's cool no matter what anybody says, is the fact that my sister and brother-in-law got there sometime mid-morning. I showed up at like 3:30, something like that. They had spent the entire day at Disneyland in Galaxy's Edge. They haven't been to Disneyland since their honeymoon or something, like 4 years ago together. And they spent the entire day. They didn't go on Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run until they got in line at 2 o'clock. They got off at like 3:15. They thought the queue was a blast. They thought the attraction was a blast. They loved walking around, seeing stormtroopers, seeing Kylo Ren. They didn't even know that Chewbacca was in because they didn't make it down to that end of the land. They did see Rey walk by. They had a blast going through the stores. They had a blast checking out the robots. They didn't buy anything other than lunch at Docking Bay 7. And I was like, you guys just spent, 6 hours at least? And you're having a blast. And I was like, this is what it's about. We overthink this and overanalyze it. So that's where this article came from. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Anything else you guys want to add on this before we move along?
yeah, you said blast 5 times in that
I know.
description.
I'm stuck on it.
Blast!
I will also add, and in positive to that as well, if you are coming to this land only for what you can tangibly get out of it, you're going to spend a lot of money and be done in 20 minutes. If you are going to go there to get what you can intangibly get out of it, to appreciate the experience, that's how you get those several hour long experiences. It's built to be lived in, not taken from.
And I think the funny part is they didn't even plan on that. It just happened, and that was really cool. let's move over to Walt Disney World. They've got they got their Halloween party started this week. What is it? Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. And this
Halloween
year
is upon us.
they have
Blessings.
created a season pass for Halloween parties. And for, what is it, $299?
I think.
Unlimited except for Halloween.
Yeah, you can go every night except for Halloween.
Which is ridiculous.
Brilliant.
Because a one night, one party ticket is like
45.
Yeah, so if you want to go to more than one party, just buy this pass.
That means two things. One, you will be able to take multiple pictures in multiple costumes inside of Disney World,
Yeah.
which is cool. And two, you can make your money back in candy.
That's
I'm
what
not
I
kidding.
thought.
It's like 5 of those parties, you can make your money back in candy.
You could be the most popular house in the neighborhood.
How much
on
candy do you
Halloween
want?
night.
You get a bag. You get a bag.
Right? You
Yeah,
could
you're
have a
handing out
big
full.
Santa bag of candy. And, I mean, really, it'd be perfect for Cameron.
You get to be Santa at Halloween.
Yeah, that
I'm
would
all
be
about it.
amazing.
Happy Santaween, everyone.
So I think this
Where's
is
the Irish?
brilliant.
Oh, Saints preserve us. It's Santaween again.
I think it's brilliant. I don't know, like, if you were a local and you had
Oh, absolutely.
$300 to burn, I don't know why you wouldn't
If you're
do
within
this.
3-4 hours of Disney World, I don't see it as a bad purchase.
Yeah,
The
that
thing
makes
I'm
so much
curious
sense.
about, if there's like a capacity thing where you can't get in at a certain point or something like that, but my hunch is there's not, because it's the Magic Kingdom and it's huge.
Yeah.
And they're not going to sell more than, like, I don't know. It'll be interesting. Yeah, it's great for candy, great for, and that new fireworks show.
It's
Like,
very
the
cute.
Jack Skellington puppet looks ridiculous.
It looks very good.
Eerily awesome. If you haven't seen it, check out a video. You'll love it.
The treat trails are cute. Constance is amazing.
Mouse Steps has an incredible video from the front row. Check it out. They're the one, I think, that has the best
Constance's
video right now.
presence in the parade is very cool.
Constance is so cool. Just like floating around.
Yeah, and the lighting effect choice with the bouquet is really
Mouse
cool.
Steps also has a good video of that.
Yes. We love mouse steps.
Yeah, we're a little bit jealous of them right now because they got to go and we didn't.
Because we're in California.
We're on the wrong coast right now. All right. The other thing that came to Walt Disney World this last week is they've created a midday ticket.
Oh yes, the
So-
after 2?
Noon.
It's afternoon,
It's
really.
literally, if you want to sleep in till 11 o'clock, get to the park
I
at
do.
noon and stay the rest of the
I
day.
was going to say 9 times out of 10 when I go to Disney, I'm doing that anyway.
I was thinking that too, is like, that's the ideal way to do Walt Disney World. And with this, it's only like $79.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
Yeah, so what do you think?
That's amazing.
Why?
Especially since it's afternoon. Like,
Well, I think it's
You're-
brilliant too because you're bringing in a second stream of people that are
Yeah.
going to go to Starbucks, go to
yeah.
all
That's
these
the thing.
places.
Do Disney Springs, do a nice breakfast somewhere on property, relax into your morning, and then go. That's great.
Yeah.
Go get breakfast at the Polynesian. Get the, what is it, the toast that everybody likes?
Tonga toast.
Tonga toast, yeah. And that's really a good way to do Disney if you don't want to buy.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can go to a resort. You can go to like there's so many options that you can do. Disney Springs. There are so many options, especially in the morning, that aren't necessarily park oriented.
Yep.
And the fact that this is I'm very interested to see how all this sells. I would imagine it would do very well.
It will be interesting though because there is an element of planning that goes into Walt Disney World that's not the same as here. So I would think it would go to, like, it's only through, is it December 15th? I think it's being offered. And it will be interesting to see how popular it becomes, who uses it, if it's guests from out of town or just the locals that are like...
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's going to be one of two types of guests. Either locals will take advantage of it,
Yep.
or those experienced Disney World attendees who are coming for a week plus, maybe. I mean, think about how much you're saving if you do a week of those tickets.
And you can buy 4 of those.
Yeah.
And it ends up, I think that's where it gets down to $79 a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. The other thing that's going to be incredibly interesting this week is everything that comes out of the D23 Expo. We will start our coverage on Thursday night. I will be at a media event that night, and we'll see what goes on there. And we will have daily videos coming out with a wrap-up, basically the highlights of each day. Think Disney Reporter, if you ever watch that, in about a minute and a half. And thank you. And we'll just do the highlight reel, basically, of what happened each day at the D23 Expo.
Mr. Depps will speak in iambic pentameter exclusively. It's going to
Yeah.
be very impressive.
Uh-huh.
And haiku.
Are you going to stand there with cards for me, or what?
Yeah, 575, go!
Anyway, looking towards D23 this weekend. What do you think we are going to be talking about a week from tonight?
Yes,
Go ahead.
Katie, front row.
Tomorrowland.
You think there's going to be Tomorrowland?
I think that we're going to see. I don't even know how much we're going to find out, but I think that we're going
to get a pretty picture.
We're going to get.
There's going to be a really nice big
picture
that we see
Universal's,
that doesn't tell us anything.
You know Universal's Epic Universe? Yeah, we're going to get that version of an announcement for Tomorrowland.
The really blurry one that's just, you can't make out any details.
Yep, and there's...
Can't wait.
Yeah.
All right, so let's run with this.
Dream called shots?
Let's say there is a Tomorrowland
Lund.
announcement.
Yes.
Dream called shots.
People Mover track.
It's going away.
Not happening. That's being destroyed.
I think so too.
I know that some people probably want to see it reinforced, but I don't think they would spend the money to reinforce it.
You'd have to go from ground. I mean, that would be the dream. I think they could do... There's very few things they could do that would make fans happier than them to say, hey, we are making a brand new People Mover from the ground up.
Oh, people would love it.
Yeah, they lose their minds.
Yeah.
Like,
Won't do it, though.
I don't think it'll happen either.
It would be
but that would be the biggest thing I think.
It would be a bigger reaction than Bob Iger's, we're not building one of these.
We're
building 7.
If he said something about the People Mover, I think that there would be like people fainting, babies crying, people running up and kissing Bob Iger. Like, I think that it would be a very big reaction.
You brought back the People Mover. All right.
Carousel Progress updated.
Oh, I can see that.
Calling shot right
Over
now.
in Florida.
I want to see an updated Carousel Progress.
So, how would they do that? Would it be a
Like
modern
final scene
day
update?
final scene, or would it be?
I'm betting they revamp it. Better animatronics. They do some of the historical perspective ones that references the old stuff, and then they have a couple more iterations of possible futures at the end. All with a much more advanced scape with the same soundtrack.
Future right now.
We are.
We're past it in many regards. Yeah,
Like Alexa?
I think that's what they're going to do with that space.
I think it's a great idea. That's very cool.
Puppies?
And also fans, nostalgic fans, will be very, very happy.
From the movie series, anything you guys are expecting to come out or from that panel?
Spider-Man.
Tom Holland walks on the stage.
I don't know if we're gonna get another Star Wars trailer.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think we're gonna get Mandalorian news. We might get some of the actors from 9 showing up.
I feel like we're going to get photos from Rise of Skywalker.
We might get some photos.
We're gonna get some content. We're not gonna get another trailer.
But I think it's gonna be September, October before we get another trailer.
Yeah.
How about? So we think that's gonna be Parks and Resort. Do you think there's gonna be any new big park news besides Tomorrowland? Like, I think there's gonna be something else. We might see. Say what? Fantasyland, potentially.
Maybe more updates about
Tomorrowland, Fantasyland area.
The Adventureland area.
Okay.
Potentially something to pull away from the Spider-Man attraction.
You don't think something bigger? Like, there's another pad at Shanghai that they could do an entire new theme park. There's other places around the world that could potentially have a big announcement.
I've heard another international park rumblings.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that would be very interesting. I don't know if that would come out this weekend.
I don't know either.
I would be fascinated if there was another international park announcement this weekend.
Or they could pull the biggest, we might have waited another year to announce that, but since there's this is a lot of negative press for Disney in general, more than they would normally allow with the Spider-Man thing. So watch them be like, oh yeah, by the way, Westcott, what's up?
If Westcott happened, I would be passing out. I would be kissing Bob Iger.
Remember that whole Toy Story parking lot revamp we were talking about? Just kidding.
Westcott. I would scream.
Westcott.
There are a couple places it could go, but
there are. Here's the thing. The
Angels,
reason I said,
get out of here. I don't want to see Angel Stadium anymore. Okay?
I'm betting if that were to, hypothetically that were to happen, they would be pushing the announcement a year earlier, and it would still take as long to do it, but them pulling the trigger on it to help with some of the more negative things.
I was going to say, I actually think that would be a counter to Epic Universe. Other question, though. Do you think Tomorrowland's the bigger story a week from now, or changes coming to Epcot is the bigger story a week from now?
Personally, Tomorrowland.
But I mean, big picture, from the Disney community.
Epcot.
Epcot, yeah.
You think Epcot?
Well, my question's more for Bailey. See, we like doing these, like, who won on this prediction thing?
Yeah.
There's the Disney Secret Project.
I was about to say the
panel.
secret project.
What do you think is that? And let's see who it is in a week. Who wins?
Well, it's a company-wide initiative, right? Is that what they said?
Did they?
I think. Did they say that? I thought I read that somewhere.
I think the most fascinating thing is that you are going to find out in 2 days.
I think it's going to be announced on
No,
Thursday
they
night.
did say
It is,
that.
yeah. So
They
Yeah.
next
they
Tuesday
said
we'll
they're
know what
announcing
is.
it on.
I don't know if it'll be announced before the media event and we'll get to ask questions about it, or if it'll be announced at the media event.
I'm going to say it's a big hullabaloo about standards and practices for employee treatment. That's my bet, that it's going to be a new standard of living wage for all parks in the United States, including benefits. That's also a slight hope, because I think Disney would be very wise to do that. But also, I would think it would be even wiser to make a big publicity stunt announcing that.
That's the direction I think it'll go to.
Building the people mover from ground zero.
More
No.
important.
Spider.
I think Cameron's probably on the right track,
I
just
agree.
because the similar thing I feel like that came out of the last one was the hiring the vets 2 years ago, and they created that program. I think it could be this, or it could be maybe something that has to do with hiring people with disabilities.
Because you see, in some of the very earliest Sumerian tribes, they used small shells as the replacement currency. It was one of the first bartering systems
Back to
used
that,
for
huh?
millet,
We're back.
grain, or rice.
Well played.
We'd use that as a trading money, y'all. I got it.
It's what it's gonna come down to.
I mean, I don't actually have
All
it.
right,
was like,
so we
that's
will
a weird
have
flex.
our
But-
full coverage of the D23 Expo. In fact, we have a page dedicated to it. If you go to dapsmagic.com/D23Expo. Shocker, right?
Whoa, we
You can
have that.
see all of our coverage.
Why don't we
We'll
own
have,
D23apps.com?
we have videos going up. We'll have
Daps23.
articles going up, and we will have no sleep happening this weekend. But that is okay, because that's what we do.
So you should go to thegeekscorner.com. That is thegeekscorner.com, your leading source for all things about us talking, mostly about Pavlovian responses.
You should go to DapsMagic.com. Check out all the D23 news as it happens this weekend, because there's going to be a lot, and we're going to be typing until our fingers fall off. Find our Patreon and help us make more magic, and subscribe to our mailing list.
And subscribe to this YouTube channel so you don't miss any of the things that we have. Hopefully we'll do some live videos this weekend as well.
We will.
If there's a good internet connection, that can be a trick over there. So we will see how that goes. But that's all the time we have for you this week. So we will see you around the corner.
Bye.